Thank you so much for coming out to tonight's screening. My name is Mara Webster, and I am the co-founder and head of programming for In Creative Company. Please join me in giving a huge welcome to the co-creators and the cast of Shrinking. And as well as the cast on stage, we also have Claudia Sulewski, who is in some of the later episodes that you'll see towards the end of season 2. Yeah. Jason, starting with you, one of the things that I love about your portrayal of Jimmy is the way that he just feels every single emotion to its fullest extent possible. And I was very curious about just how you've approached playing this character, whether it's moments where he's in grief and he just becomes so overshadowed by himself, or even just the way if he feels joy, it's always turned up to 11.
Yeah, I'm pretty Muppety, you know. That's kind of my approach to acting. I kind of try to lay it bare and think that that's probably how most of us are actually experiencing our emotions, and then we like layer being scared of being made fun of on top of that, you know? So I've always been drawn to characters who just do the thing and kind of abandon their sense of pride or shame around being human.
Brett, in talking about your role this season, in coming into the show, it's such a great arc, and you guys are in for such a treat with Brett's performance. I know it's something that felt like a little bit challenging and a little bit new because it's such a dramatic storyline that you have. And it sounds like you were a little bit apprehensive about some of the challenges, but felt very supported by Jason and by Bill. And so what was kind of your method of approaching the things that felt really challenging and daunting, but also how that support system really helped you approach it?
Hello, that's a nice question. These chairs feel very unsafe. Are we safe?
We'll find out.
SAG dues at work.
I like to do these with a bit of jeopardy. It was scary because this is an incredible cast, and I was scared of joining in case I brought down Shrinking. I thought that would be a real shame. But Jason... It was actually Jason's idea. He said, you should be playing this part. And so if Jason tells you to do something, you do something, because otherwise he gets violent. But yeah, what was I mean, look, it's a very, very serious part, and it's not fun. He doesn't really have much in the way of jokes. But I also had lots and lots of... I spoke with Lukita, the brilliant Lukita. I have an awful lot of scenes with her, and I spoke with her. And I said, how do you feel about me doing this? And she was very nice about it. And you just realize, look, we're going to be doing these really sort of heavy things, and you've just got to trust each other. And then that's it. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, is that useful?
It was perfect.
Thank you.
Jessica, in talking about your arc this season, I love how kind of she feels very overwhelmed a little bit, and like she's maybe dove into certain things head first and is kind of trying to backtrack and figure out how to approach things in life, moving into a new place, but not really having had a chance to unpack, literally and metaphorically in a lot of ways. And so how did you want to kind of play that arc this season? Because it's kind of a couple steps forward, couple steps back, constant ebb and flow.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's nice about being in just like an actor on this project is all I have to focus on is playing the moment. So sometimes I think in my head, you know, I'll learn the lines and then have some ideas about the way I think the scene would go. But once you get in the room, it's like kind of like taking it moment to moment every time. That's like especially with her, she's such a, she wears her heart on her sleeve, and you kind of know what's going on just based on her face. She's not really that coy with anything ever. And so, yeah, I was mostly just thinking about playing the moment. And then what's the funniest version of this? What's the mixture? And then just trying to give Bill and the editors and directors options on that. That's my main thing. Is I don't have to worry about anything except just showing up and being present.
And Christa, in playing Liz, one of the things I think is so wonderful is that she has such a sharp wit, and yet she's also so soft and vulnerable on the other side. And I think you do such a wonderful job with that portrayal. And in particular, how did you want that relationship that she has with the hard exterior and kind of the vulnerability underneath to continue to be an ongoing journey for her this season?
Well, I think we all do that. Even in times of crisis, I've had friends in crisis that are going through horrible things, and they're funny, and we still laugh anyway. And you still laugh when you're sad. And the worst part is if you're going through something and you shut down. And I think Liz is trying not to, so she has to stay vulnerable.
Michael, I wanted to ask a little bit about some of your character's insecurities, because it feels like he's so self-critical of himself a lot of the time. And
Michael doesn't have any.
He'll oftentimes be the first person to say something about himself before anybody else would have the opportunity to do so as a defense mechanism. But I love how the script constantly gives us more details about his backstory and kind of where a lot of that stems from. And so how did that really help you in continuing to build that journey that he has with himself this season?
He'll sometimes diagnose himself incorrectly, or he'll use the right word, but it doesn't mean what he thinks it means. Which is I think it's a really interesting quality in a character who realizes, okay, I know I messed up, but I gotta work through it, and I gotta get ahead of it. I know that I've got this problem coming up, and I'm just gonna jump right into it. And we get into some really cool ones in this season that I didn't expect. Like when Brian confronts, you haven't seen it yet, but when Brian, I'm going to spoil it right now, here it goes. He confronts Jimmy about their friendship, and specifically about how when they became friends, Brian was in the closet, and then now years later, they're still friends, but Brian's out of the closet and different, and they never really addressed that. And that is such a real thing in the queer community. When you're a queer person, you're in the closet and you have all these friends who aren't in the closet. You're being someone that you're not. You're putting on things that aren't really true. And there's an adjustment and it happened to me with straight friends of mine. After I came out of the closet, I thought, would we even be friends now? And we tackle that on the show, and I have never seen that on TV before. It was a really cool thing that, and maybe you'll see yourself or you'll see someone and they're always doing that. These writers, they're always coming up with mental health things that we haven't watched before, and then they're funny, and then they make it funny too.
It's such a great point about the fact that we don't usually get to see that particular storyline on TV. Lukita, in your arc this season, I feel like season 1, there was so much of her own grief that she had to put on pause because she was trying to be the person that was there for her dad in so many ways. But it feels like throughout the second season, she really gets a little bit more of an opportunity to kind of try to process it and try to reflect on those feelings. And so how did that build a lot of the emotional arc of her for you?
Ooh, I think in season 2, she definitely gets to start feeling her feelings more with the security that she has in her relationship with Jimmy now. She's able to take a back seat on kind of the parental role she had over him in season 1. And she gets to be more of a teenager in season 2. We see her make mistakes and learn how to ask for forgiveness and be youthful. I think she felt a lot more youthful to me in season 2 than in season 1.
Yeah. And Luke, for Sean in this season, he's kind of always trying to move forward with such forward momentum, but he just gets pulled into his own past emotions at times. And we kind of see a little bit more of that grappling with anger that sometimes comes to the surface for him. And so how did you shape out a lot of what that was going to look like with him grappling between the past and the future that he's trying to strive for?
You're really good at this. Thank you. Really good, sharp. So what's awesome about Shrinking is I get to work with wonderful writers and producers, and Bill will make it a point man, Bill's so Hollywood. He's so Hollywood on planet Earth. It's such a cool combination. I'll walk by Bill on the WB lot, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's somebody who I greatly admire, who I also happen to work for. And he's like, got some stuff coming up. Gonna talk to you about it. And he's just so quick with it, right? And then he always delivers. Hey, it's me, it's Bill. Want to talk to you about this part. Okay, we'll go over this. We'll talk over this. How you feel about that? And he really wants to know. Even though he's moving quick, he's not steamrolling me. Yeah. And then I have an opportunity to share what I think. He's like, cool, it's gonna be great. Okay, see you out there. And then we go to work. So I'm never in the dark. I never have to worry about shouldering the burden of carrying Sean's journey on my own, because he is a character that's been created by me who's playing him, the writers who wrote him, and he's also being shaped by every natural moment we have on set. So I would love to be like, oh yeah, it's like this, it's like that. Frankly, everything seems like a team effort, including the character that I play. So it's an honor and it's a great responsibility because of the kind of character that Sean is. But I don't feel fear when playing Sean, because I kind of feel like I'm playing him and so many other people are playing him and I get to take credit for it.
It's very weird because Bill does not consult me.
This guy is the best. Every time, too.
Yeah.
Ask him
He
anything.
just nails it.
Yeah, I wanted to run for
Ask
president.
him for me.
He'd be great.
Ted, in talking about Derek, he obviously is the most golden retriever character of the show. But because of how great the writing is and how great your portrayal is, obviously we see that there's a lot more beneath him. And I love those asides where someone will leave a room and he's like, I actually really hate that person. And we get to see some of his insecurities and vulnerabilities that do exist that people maybe don't always notice as much. And so how do you go into playing a character like that exudes so much energy and charisma, but that there's always still those things bubbling underneath?
Great question. I like to think of Derek as an iceberg. And, you see the surface of Derek and everyone assumes that's what it is. And underneath is this giant beast that holds him up and also drags him down. Whenever I think about Derek, my goal is to be light. So in this, it's my secret, is that I think about Derek as darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. And so when Derek comes in, I want him to be light. I want him to be warmth. I want you to feel and see him. And that's my goal, secretly. So don't tell any of these guys. They say have a secret. Well, that's mine. I just gave it away. So next year it'll be darkness. If there is a next year. Anyway, I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm just glad that he's seen. You will see more of him this year, whether you like it or not. So.
And Jason and Brett, in writing this with Bill and the rest of the writers' room, one of the things that must be so great about this dichotomy of characters and this amazing ensemble is that in any given scene, you can really create so many different energies to any moment, given who's the person that they're going to tell this thing to, who are they going to be paired with, what's the grouping that's going to be sitting in the kitchen discussing this problem. And so whenever you're going scene by scene, how do you kind of play that game of, okay, if we add this character and take this away, how's that going to change the chemistry of the moment?
Well, Brett can speak more to this, but the thing that I've noticed, being on set especially, is that any combination of people becomes their own unexpected, amazing odd couple. You pair any of these people together, and all of a sudden it could be its own show. I mean, that's magic. I mean, I feel like every one of these actors could be the lead in their own show, and any combo of them could be a buddy comedy. Yeah. That's crazy. We got really, really lucky. But speak more to the writing.
Well, the writing is. I've been lucky enough twice to write a season 2, to be part of writing a season 2, and season 2 is always better because now you know the actors, you know the characters, you built the world. It's really fun writing for season 2, but it's also a fucking nightmare because they're all. Look how many people there's so many people to fit in, and they're all brilliant. And you want to service every single character and make sure every character has a full, complete arc for 12 episodes. And within each episode, they have an arc, and they've got to have a funny moment, and they've got to have a moving moment. And you want to, all of them deserve. The actors deserve that, and the characters deserve that. So it's really hard because you also only have half an hour to fit all of that in. But it is true. It's genuinely fun to go like, oh, what if we put them with them? And it will always work because they are an amazing fucking cast.
This other thing happens in a season 2 that you don't necessarily think about it, but in a season 1, no one actually knows what the show is yet. None of us have made it, and so you're kind of all feeling off each other what the tone of the show is, but it doesn't exist yet. And so then in a season 2, you have the benefit of all having seen it, so you know what the target is. So everybody comes in with like a really clear view of like, oh, these are the colors we can paint with, and it can go that far. Oh, it can be that serious. And so everyone just came in this season like ready to kill it.
And there's also the treat of when you love the actors that you go like, we can push them. For example, no spoilers, but Ted McGinley, who plays Derek, is only funny in season 1, really. But in season 2, we're like, he's a fucking great actor. He has some really moving stuff that we write and we go, he's going to kill this, and he does. And with Luke, he doesn't have a whole ton of funny in season 1. Season 2 is like, that guy's fucking funny. He's got a huge comedy set piece. I was so excited to see him do it because he hadn't had the chance to do it yet. And it's like, he's a killer. He's fucking great.
I think it's such a great point about everybody kind of coming in and knowing the tone, because I think this show is such a special tone, and it allows you to play into the deepest depths of vulnerability and insecurity and trauma and grief, and at the same time absolutely hilarious in a really earnest way, but also in a way that, like Christa, you were describing, can sometimes be a cover. And so what was the difference that it made for all of the rest of you as actors in coming back and knowing those were the paint strokes that you could play with?
Well, I agree with Jason, because we were delayed by the writer's strike, and then we all came in like, when are we starting work? Like, we're so excited to start work, and everyone was excited to do, because you do know the tone and what you can do with it. And I think what one of the tones that Jason set last year, which I think was incredibly helpful to me, is that Jason doesn't feel good unless he's done 5 things in a day that has made him embarrassed and fell flat and there was crickets and no one heard about it. And I was like, I hate being embarrassed. And Jason's like, oh, well, now you have to do 5 things a day. That when you leave, it's not a good day unless you feel like you tried and you failed, and then you came back and tried something else. And it kind of changed everything. And so I appreciate that.
Thanks. Well, I did full frontal nudity. It was really quiet that day, and it really made an impression on me. It was a silent set that day.
Yeah. To piggyback on that, I just want to piggyback on the image of his penis. And I just want to hold some silence for it. Really think about what he said for a second. No, to piggyback on that, it's not very often that you get an opportunity to think about his penis.
You'd be surprised.
No, it's not very often that you get the opportunity to, especially as like a woman and as like a black female actor, to play comedy as hard as you can. And then also be able to play drama as much as I want. And to me, one of the reasons why I wanted to do this show is I like the tone of Scrubs, which is Bo Lawrence's baby. And then I really wanted to work with Jason, and I feel like he's so good at that. And that was like, someone's like, oh, what that actor's doing, I want to do that. And so I feel really lucky I feel like I get to go on screen and just breathe, like especially as like a more comedy performer, and like expand and contract on screen. And like I just feel like really lucky that I get to do that with all these other actors too, because my goal is, my secret goal is to just try and stay present and support you guys as much as I can, and try and like lob jokes for you and moments and stuff, and like, and also obviously for myself. But that's why I love this cast so much, is because everyone's so game to like try stuff and be brave and fail. And then also, it's like, if you fail, they're just not going to use it. And so just don't use it. And so it feels really nice to be on a set where the tone was set, from you guys and Bill, that you can just like fuck up and it just won't be used and won't see the light of day. So it rules. Yeah, it's trust. It's
Yeah.
trust. And it's funny, too, because with our directors, we have really amazing directors this season. And Bill's always in the edit. But it's funny, whenever I watch, like, the final cut, it's like that stuff still makes it. Like, you can tell, like, sometimes you'll watch something, and as an actor, it's the most out of your control. You might not even make it in the project, but it's always really nice when you see the director and the editor and the EPs and the writers are like, no, girl, we got you. Like, we're going to get those weird things in there. And that doesn't happen with every project. It just feels like we're all in this sort of band together. And even in post-production, they're like, making sure we all sing together, which is really nice.
Sorry, Jason, the fine line is time. Right on a set, everything is about time. And we walk this amazing line on the set where we play a lot. And the writing is so good, you don't have to do anything, but every so often you can go off a teeny bit, you can finish something that is slightly different or take these chances that we're talking about that are big. And often when you fail on another set, they fire you. And here, they see you and they say, great, try it again, do something else. It doesn't exist anywhere else because of time. And somehow they found it here. And that's the genius of this production and this producing team.
Sorry, go on.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say the value of the failure take is that it might just be one fucking thing. You know what I mean? It might just be the moment in the failure take where someone goes like, ah! And you like have it as a cutaway and it's the biggest laugh of the scene. And you only got it because you did the failure take. It's like, Bill is a genius editor. All of our post-production are geniuses, but Bill is really exceptionally like gifted at it. And he will find that moment from the failure take. And so it's important. I just think you got to try it all,
Lukita, I also wanted to ask you a little bit about Alice's relationship with Liz this season, because, she was obviously such a mother figure to her when Jimmy wasn't able to show up. But it feels like it's very much a two-way, kind of very equal relationship in a different way in a lot of ways where, Alice will be like, I know what you need as much as you know what I need at this point. Like, I know that you wish you had a daughter and you want to braid my hair right now because you're feeling sad. And so how did you want that to kind of really grow and evolve into a new space this season?
Oh, it's so sweet. We have such sweet stuff. Always. But Alice is very strong, but she's a huge empath sponge and is very aware of, making sure that, like you said, like giving what she's receiving, and she wants to make sure that Liz is good. I think she is intertwined with also Liz's son in ways, and then is embarrassed about shit that goes down there. So I think that there's a lot of guilt that she wants to clear up and make sure that they're good beyond her teenage fuck-ups, and make sure that she, can show up for people the way that people show up for her.
And we kind of grew into like having a more adult relationship, out of me caretaking so much, and which is a struggle for Liz, but it's sweet.
Christa, I also wanted to ask you about the work that you do as a music supervisor on the series, because I love all the creative choices that you make in that regard. And I remember you saying for season 1 that you would kind of start with a list of songs that you possibly wanted to use for the season, and then you kind of see what potentially fits. And sometimes things will get worked into the script right at the beginning, and sometimes it's a case of adding it later in post. And was that a very similar structure going into this season?
Yeah, and I also had the time. I had the time to really bank great music, and it's again in terms of the team effort of this whole gang. The editors on our show are great, and they will choose. I have like a favorites list that I really want to hit, and then I have other music, and they sometimes will put in music of mine that I hadn't thought of the spot. And I think it's so brilliant, and it's not what I would have thought, and everyone gets to feel like they're part of a team, and I always am saying cheers. That was like, I can't believe it. The only person who's bad about it is Bill, that will put something great in, he loves it, and then he'll call me 5 days later and goes, oh, I stole that for another episode, so today it's locked, and you need to find another song today. And then my whole day is shot, and I'm just working for Bill.
And Jason, in talking a little bit more about Jimmy's journey, I think it resonates so much because it's such a realistic thing of you never know when things are going to sneak up on you. You never know what your journey with grief is going to be day to day. So he has moved forward, but he does still fall back on himself at certain moments and have certain triggers that bring things to the surface. And so how was that a little bit of a different journey for you and kind of using everything that you'd built and shaped for his emotional landscape, but finding those moments where he was allowed to do a little bit better this season?
Yeah, I mean, that's my experience with getting growth at all, is it's not linear. You're like, oh man, I got this. And then you like try to have a relationship. You're like, oh, I didn't have it. It's like, it's really this, I try to think of Jimmy as like, it's like a graph that's going upward, but there's still all the ups and downs within it. This season, it was really fun because it kind of like season 1 was about getting him out of the hole, like just getting to 0. And now it's like trying to walk. And he's going to stumble and move forward, but he's got like all his friends to help him along the way. So yeah, it was really cool. And then, you find out that you can't skip steps. And that's what our show kind of butts up against as we move on throughout the season. Like, oh, you skipped a couple steps there at the beginning and like the Jenga tower is not as solid as you thought it was.
Absolutely. And Brett, kind of off the back of what Jason was talking about earlier with tone and kind of finding that, one of the beautiful things about the writing in this is that each character has such a distinct comedic sensibility to them. And again, it goes back to that idea of the way that you can play them off of each other. And I was just very curious about what that looked like at the beginning of season 1 and really figuring out the comedic sensibilities of them all.
Well, I think it's also the actors that you find it with the actors. They're all really funny, and they're funny in quite specific ways, and you sort of just have to pay attention. I can't to be honest, I can't remember how everything was originally on the paper because I'm so used to their voices now, but I'm sure it's at least 50% them. At least.
Shot low.
The great thing about the writing here is that when you read the script, you know exactly who that character is. It's in their voice every time. And that's the genius of the writers. And they literally, I'm so often used to it's almost ambiguous. Anyone could say the line. It doesn't work on the show. It is, right away who it's for, and you can hear it come out of their mouth. And it is, it's remarkable. It's amazing.
I don't think I've ever had a question when I've read a script. You read a script and you're like, what does this mean? Or what's going on here? Or what am I supposed to play here? I don't think I've ever had a question looking at a shrinking script. It's so clear. It's so specific. And it is, especially this season, they know how we talk now. And it's like every time it's like a glove.
And I think when it's a good script when it's easy to memorize.
Yes.
When you get scripts sent to you and you're like trying to learn, you're like, I can't learn it. It's jumble. It's my brain is scrambled and shrinking. It's just very easy to learn.
So true.
You can just scoop it up.
And lastly, for you, Jessica, in terms of Gabby, I think one of the things that feels so relatable in terms of who she is the way that she tries to put everyone before herself in so many ways, and she kind of forgets to look after herself from time to time. But it does feel like that is something that she's gradually learning to do a little bit better. And so how did you want to approach that journey for her?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there was a lot of talk in a couple of years ago about the black therapist trope and how a lot of people use it to have people of color, particularly women, play therapists so that people can download the main character can download into the therapist and have her not say anything about her inner dialogue and how she's feeling. And so to me, I don't know, it's just in the writing. They were always very clear that Gabby was someone who has sort of this martyr complex that she can kind of use to not focus on her own problems, which I find really relatable. And also, in the landscape of this industry, black female characters can a lot of times be that way by accident. And so there's something really liberating about being able to play her where people are like, oh, what is she feeling? Oh, is she the red flag in this relationship? Oh, is she does she have a lot of shit going on? And it's like the easiest kind of it's almost like a no-brainer that she would have her own entire world. But to me, I think that the way you sidestep cliches, especially of like a Black therapist, is to try and attack things with specificity as much as possible. So my job with her is again, like just attacking her choices with specificity, that you're like, oh, it's only Gabby, even though she is a Black therapist and she's using these ways to cope. But I hope I answered your question, but it's just trying to be really specific about my choices. That kind of sidesteps mediocrity, I think.
And real quick, just being able to watch as a young African American, it's powerful to see how you, with brevity and specificity, will use a sort of sliding scale that you've built. Man, there was one day on set I was just locked in watching you, and you had some line, and you changed it a little, and you were very sweet about it. You weren't overbearing, or you didn't have like a condescending attitude. You just said like, I don't think Gabby's that mean. I think maybe it's this. And I was like, writing these notes down, because I watched the writers be like, oh damn, yeah, all right, bet. And everybody was like, okay, roll. And I'm on this. And I didn't tell you then because you were in the zone, But I can tell you now.
Thanks, fam.
Of course.
Good looking out, my G. It's a Black king right there.
And that's part of why Jessica and Jason got Emmy nominations for season 1. It is such a special show. You are all in for an amazing treat the rest of season 2. It's even more phenomenal than season 1. So thank you so much for sharing the show with us and talking about it. And thank you for coming out tonight.
Thank you so much, by the way. You're
Thank
just
you.
awesome.
Thank you.